Fencing is a beautiful sport because it's kind of like a dance. You kind of have to work with your opponent, but also be 1 or 2 steps ahead as well. But when I put my mask on, it's just give them hell. I think it's what I was on this planet to do, is to win, but also to inspire and change the sport forever. So that's my duty.
Welcome to Mindset Win, Miles Chamley-Watson. And to start this one off, or kick this one off, I thought it would be interesting to hear yourself describe yourself in 3 words and maybe see afterwards if we can agree.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Describe myself in 3 words. Okay. Driven, crazy, and determined.
Those are good ones. Why would you pick crazy?
Because half the time I don't know what I'm gonna do or what I'm gonna say. And my mom always calls me Crazy Miles, and my friends do too. But in like a good crazy, you know. I think to be good crazy is good for being an athlete.
Definitely. And I mean, determined and driven is pretty good for an athlete as well. I saw your Instagram story just a couple of minutes ago and you were working out today as well. So all eyes.
Yeah, I literally just ran from training, so I had to get my snacks in, my smoothie. But we're here now. We're ready. So yeah.
All right, then let's get into it. Miles, you're this highly decorated and trailblazing crazy fencer, obviously, but your sport and yourself, it wasn't a perfect match or love at first sight.
Yeah, exactly. So you did your research. So I actually got into fencing kind of more through a punishment. So I was born in London, moved to America, and I was around 9 years old. And for me, it was kind of just like, we would play football growing up, rugby, cricket in London. And fencing was actually offered in one of the schools that I got into. The first one got kicked out of, the second one. It was fencing, tennis, and badminton. And they were kind of the sports that I kind of had to try from 3 to 4:30 to kind of get better in school. So I was like, oh, you know what? Fencing's fun. Every kid at that age loves a quote unquote a sword. And I loved it right away. And it kind of just, got me out of trouble. So I always say if I didn't get into trouble, I would have never got out of trouble. So it's kind of a double-sided sword.
Oh, nice one. Like the picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
See what you
exactly.
did there. As we see today, it did work out, and you guys kind of built your relationship together. Looking back now, what would you say that fencing taught you? Because I feel like it wasn't so much of a punishment anymore.
Yeah, so looking back, I would say it taught me everything I know to this day. It taught me, fencing's like chess and boxing. So it taught me how to manage time management, taught me how to anticipate, how to react, and then taught me patience as well, which is kind of something that I'm still working on to this day. But fencing is a beautiful sport because it's kind of like a dance. You kind of have to work with your opponent, but also be 1 or 2 steps ahead as well. So I think for me, fencing taught me everything I know to this day. Time management, patience, discipline, to listen to my coach, which is something that I'm still learning. Listening. He puts up with me to this day. Misha, I love you. So it's kind of just like constantly I'm learning about myself each day. So fencing taught me literally my whole existence on this planet.
Does your coach call you Crazy Miles as well?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he really does. But like I spend so much time with him. I spend hours every day with him. So it's important to have that relationship with your coach. So he's literally like a second dad to me.
So that's very interesting. Me too. Catch up on that in just a second. But you just said fencing is like chess, boxing, and dancing at the same time. How so?
Well, chess, I have to think 1 step ahead of you. Boxing, I have to react. And a dance is I need you to react to what I'm going to do. So if you're not moving with me on the strip, it's kind of hard to get the outcome that I want. That's when I say dance, because it's like I need you as much as you need me. Kind of, yeah, exactly.
So how do you approach practice then? Or how do you approach getting better if those are the 3 pillars that you're working with?
Well, I think with at least for fencing, you can always learn more, right? Because you don't know everything. I don't know everything about every opponent as well as myself. So learning from just, my footwork to drills to just learning about if I want to be more offensive or more defensive. So it's constantly a learning curve. You never ever learn all of it, which I think is why fencing is such a beautiful sport because there's just so much to learn. And I've had, a lot of success early in my sport, but now, in my 30s now, I think I still have so much to learn, which is really kind of interesting. And I love practice. Practice for me should be the hardest thing. I think if you practice hard, competition should be easier.
When you're saying you still have so much to learn, what are you referring to? What do you feel that you still have to get better at?
I have so much to learn tactically. I'm more of like a feeling kind of go with the flow type of fencer. Some people are very more strategic, more mental. So just like learning about more moves, more things defensively, more things offensively. Um, yeah, every day I learn more about myself. Especially like in a lesson one on one with my coach. It's kind of just me and him. We get to work on, the last competition. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? So yeah, you're always constantly learning.
And how would you describe your relationship with your coach if you're saying he's basically a second dad to you and this is how you get better every day?
Well, I've only had like two real coaches in my life. First one was Simon, who actually is my coach's best friend. My coach Misha now, we started working together in the pandemic. It's like honestly an amazing relationship. Like he's super honest with me. There's no being around the bush. He's, Ukrainian and he kind of very assertive. So I speak, a decent amount of Ukrainian as well. So just like, it's a love relationship. So if he's not honest with me, I can't be honest with him. And I think that's why we have a great relationship because we're just very honest. If I'm not doing well, he'll tell me. If I'm doing well, he'll tell me, which is less. But he's very honest, which I love about him.
You just mentioned the pandemic, and I just listened to another podcast or a video of yours where you described this COVID situation as the episode in your life where you started to think about the whole mental part of the sport, really, because you were kind of caught in your apartment, just like everyone else, basically. But there was this extra, or it has this extra touch in your situation because you also have ADHD, so it was double hard for you to stay at home and not move.
Yeah.
So how did you assess this whole idea of getting to know yourself better on this mental level?
Well, I think for me, I was in New York living, and then I was in LA for work, just shooting something, and then COVID happened. And I was okay, I'll be in LA for a week, 2 weeks, and I ended up staying at my mate's house, Paul and Ashley, for like 7 months.
It's crazy.
And I was like, okay. It was kind of the first time in my life I've never had a routine since I was probably 12 years old. So for me, it's okay, cool, it's fun in the beginning, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going a little bit stir crazy. How do I come out of this pandemic as a better Miles? So I started to kind of get more into the mental of like, okay, a little bit of meditation in the morning, and then creating my own routine, which ended up being awesome for me because I learned a lot about myself, because there's time to ask yourself the hard questions or, what do you want out of life? What do you want post fencing? So I learned a lot about myself in that short amount of, well, not short amount of time, but in that period
7 months.
of COVID, which seems so far away, but seems like it was also yesterday. So COVID was a blessing and a curse, I'd say. But also, ultimately, I moved out to LA during the pandemic, so it was more of a blessing for me.
You said you asked yourself the hard questions. I wrote some of them down. Who are you? Are you happy with yourself? And what do you want to do? Did you, or would you say that you found the answers for yourself to those questions?
Yeah, for sure. I think I've always had a good mental mind, per se. I never really had, luckily, like any, mental kind of problems outside of, not winning. But I think for me, yeah, like asking myself, those questions like, who's Miles? What does Miles want to leave a legacy of? What is, his journey past his fencing? What I want to create. So yeah, it was nice to ask yourself these questions and have an answer to them now. Because if it wasn't for the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have these answers that I do now. So yeah, I have a tattoo on my hand which says it's never lost, it's always a lesson. I kind of take that into my everyday.
Crazy. So do you have more tattoos that would like help you remind certain things and like I don't know, probably give you a certain feeling of stability in certain situations?
Yeah, I mean, all my tattoos are personal reminders of parts of my life or journeys or accomplishments or defeats. So they're all for a reason. But I would say, yeah, definitely. Any, reminders of second guessing myself, can always look down and say, okay, well, there's your answer.
I like that. And you also mentioned that you kind of, first at first had trouble creating your routines, but then were able to build them in a room or in a realm where there's no stability or no structure really. How important are routines for you, and what are the routines that shape your day today?
Well, every day I wake up around 7:30, go to Red Bull, train in the mornings for like 2.5 hours, PT. Then I take all my business stuff afterwards, and I go to fencing. So it's full on routine. Like for me, like Monday to Friday is there's not much wiggle room, and then Saturday, Sunday I like to have no routine, just go with the
Interesting.
flow. Because my Monday to Friday is always so regimented, diet, training, go to bed early, sleep, all that thing, and then the weekends I like to just do my thing. I think balance is key. You can't just, at least for me, I can't just every day be like I'm in the military. No, I need to have a little bit of fun.
What about competition days?
Like I've got a routine in the morning, wake up, music, take a shower, have my clothes hung up perfectly, and then just, you know, get to it. Get on the breakfast, yeah, eat healthy, and then just go out there and, you know, I think if you prepare and you know you're prepared, then I think everything's taken care of already.
Well, it should be at least, or in the ideal case. Can you take us with you to the moment in the competition where you guys actually, stand in front of each other, you face your opponent, you're taking the mask down. I read somewhere that you feel like a superhero once you do that. What goes through your mind? How are you speaking to yourself?
Yeah, so I don't really speak to myself um, because I've done it for so many years, but it's kind of just now just a part of life. But when I put my mask on, it's just give them hell and just go out there and do what you love to do. So I don't really like think about the opponent at all. It doesn't matter who's in front of me. Don't care. I know what I need to do. And then it's just go out there and have fun. That's the most fun. Is when you're out there with your opponent. Got the same thing in the hand, and it's kind of like who's gonna win. That's what you live. Like I love that pressure, the butterflies in your stomach. I love that. Heart beats faster. I live for those moments.
I was just about to ask, what about feelings of pressure? What about, I don't know, nerves? What about excitement or something that comes with, all eyes on you, lights out?
I mean, pressure. Number one, it's a privilege. So most people don't ever get to experience pressure. So understanding that is like it's a win in itself, and then just realizing that like all the work you've done is for these moments, and lean into it. And I don't know. I think I'll retire when I stop getting nervous. But I love those feelings. You wake up in the morning, don't have the right appetite, your stomach's a little bit butterflies. Like that's the best feeling. I love that because most people don't ever get to experience that moment. And then when you're on the finals and you're winning, you got the trophy or the medal. That's what every athlete I think dreams for, just for that moment.
What about losses? If you're so excited about the butterflies and enjoy them so much, how do you deal with, the situation if things don't go the way you planned?
Actually, I have a really good story here. So in the 2012 Olympics, we got fourth, and I'm in the team room. Team USA comes in, and all the basketball players come in. They get iced on whatever, and then Kobe comes in there, asks me what I do. Kobe Bryant, and he's like, "Oh, he told me this quote that I never forget. It's the best athletes have the shortest memory. So you win, you
Ah,
forget about it. You lose, you forget about it. So I would never stop thinking about that to this day. So if I win, awesome. If I lose, find out what happens and then adjust and then move right on. So
and
that's something that I deal with pretty well.
And does it work for you? Because, I'm just, I'm thinking personally about how I'm dealing with losses or whatever, and it's not easy to have a short memory at all.
It's not easy, but I don't know if I'm just naturally had that in me, but yeah, I don't personally have many issues with that. I think I've been doing it for so long that there's more losses than wins, you know. So and just appreciate both of them, because if you when you lose, you realize how good it is to win. When you win, you realize how shitty it is to lose. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Was it always like that? Like even at the beginning of your career?
I mean, yeah, as a little kid, you cry when you lose, right? "Ah," and then all of a sudden you just turn into more of like, I guess, quote unquote, a man, and then you just yeah naturally don't cry, and then obviously I'm not a robot. You get sad, that's
Hmm.
normal,
Hmm.
and then take that day, take that night, okay, and then the next morning it's a new day.
That's crazy. I wish I could just switch off my thoughts like that. Well,
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think when you figure it out, it makes things a lot easier for you.
definitely. That's for sure. And is that also helpful when looking at your career, in its entirety? Because obviously, looking at who Miles is, Crazy Miles is, as a you know full person, you're so much more than just a fencer. What about all this stuff that you do outside the fencing area?
Yeah, I think like now I've gotten to a point where people might say I'm bigger than the sport, whatever, but without fencing, I'm not Miles. So
Hmm.
being able to make the sport bigger is also another passion of mine. But even bigger than that is like inspiring kids that look like me, that don't look like me, that see me on whatever billboards or whatever. Like, oh, who's that? It's Fencer. So that to me is probably bigger than any medal I could ever win. It's like inspiring kids. This is the coolest thing possible. So hopefully I can continue to do that, inspire more kids to, whether it's in smaller sports or whatever it might be. That to me is keeps me going as well.
Hmm. And why would you say it doesn't matter so much to you?
Because like I never had a Miles growing up to look at and be like, oh look, this is success in fencing. So my mom was like, what are you doing? You're fencing, you didn't finish college. I was like, I'll figure it out. Thank God now, mom, we're doing all right. But beginning it was scary. So now kids can say, look, mom, there's Miles, is an example of being successful in fencing. So that is why it's so important to me to, show the next generation that it is possible.
And the whole fashion stuff, everything that you're doing on the side, are you doing that in order to show them that you can do it in whatever kind of way? Or is that just, I don't know, authentic and happens to come into the picture as well?
I think both. Good question. I think I love fashion in general. I would love to look good since I was a little kid. My mom modeled. So I've always just loved fashion. So it's kind of a perfect balance. And the fashion world's embraced me. So thank you for that world. And also, it's just another audience to tap into. But I've always loved fashion, like naturally. So it's not really like much I have to try to change. I'm always myself. So, and it's been a lovely new adventure for me as well.
And you really try to combine these two worlds and actually set up a really cool thing with Red Bull in 2022. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and what it meant to you.
Oh yeah, so Rebel on Guard, which is tattooed on the back of my neck. On guard, not
Oh,
Rebel on Guard.
well, I was like,
Uh,
that's sick.
and I've always just wanted to, okay, how can I create something that's never been done before, but also merges both of my worlds to fashion and fencing. So Rebel has also been an amazing supporter of mine since I first started really on this journey. Um, so yeah, we kind of put on an amazing event at the Bowery Ballroom. We got so many people involved and had some other fencers, men, women, and it kind of just showed a different side of the sport. Fashion, with the fashion people involved and sports people involved, and like, whoa, this is kind of the first we've seen of like sports and fashion really coexisting naturally. And we're gonna do definitely some more, take them on the road, but it was a massive success.
So you guys were fencing against each other and like kind of on a runway. And how did the
Yeah.
fashion component come into the picture?
So like fencing and the runway is kind of the same, similar, I guess, room of space as runway fencing strip, very similar. So we had like special fencing outfits that were like customized with some fashion people to kind of add that flair to it because it's always in white. And then had some music, had, Salama Masakela was our MC, who was the best. And just kind of like infused those two together. And so we had some emerging designers help us out, design our shoes, and that kind of was a new aspect to the sport, which hopefully continues to grow.
You just said how the fencing area, or the field, and the runway are kind of similar to each other, and you've been running in fashion shows as well. How is that similar or different for you, being as a model on the runway or as a fencer in the arena?
I mean, it's different kind of nerves, but you still get nervous walking out, but it's nice. Then you just walk. But yeah, luckily they said I've got a good walk, which is nice. But it's just another like new way to, get your endorphins going, right? Because you're just kind of in a new, unfamiliar space, but you got to just own it when you walk out. So yeah, we got a couple more runways coming up, so you'll see.
All right. Well, we'll have an eye on you for sure. And if you're
Right.
saying it's a different kind of or it's different kind of nerves, would you say that you definitely have to be able to deal with these situations though if you want to be a successful fencer, if you want to make it in the sport?
Yeah, I think just in general, most athletes, like, there's a lot of good athletes, but to be greats, the legends, the goats, whatever, you kind of have to deal with pressure on a whole different level of everybody else. So the more times you're at, a successful level, higher level, I think the more times you can understand how it is to deal with pressure. So yeah,
Hmm.
and when you do deal with the pressure and then you end up coming over it and winning is the best feeling there is.
So for a newbie in fencing who is, willing to follow your path, what would you say is something that they can actually work on? You said it's kind of innate for you. It's in you. It's just something that you came with. But what could be something that they can actually work on to get better at dealing with situations like these?
I think just more you practice, the more prepared you get. So I've always just figured like situational fencing, like when I'm at practice, I put myself in these moments. I visualize, okay, 14-14, I'm at the Olympics. This point wins it all. So the
Ah,
more you have these visualization moments, the more prepared you are. So I think that's the most important thing is practice is like literally the most important thing for you. So when you get to the actual main stage, you've already been there in your head.
have you ever worked with a mental coach as well, by the way?
No, I've never worked with a mental coach. I mean, we did some Wim Hof training, but that's more breathing. But
Ah,
with Red Bull, but I've never worked with a mental person or a psychologist or no. I think it's cool to be able to just like figure it out on your own.
interesting approach. Tell me more about the Wim Hof training. I've seen the Netflix documentary, I think, or whatever. He's crazy, but
He's
maybe you can
nuts, but I
share
love that
what he
guy.
did with you.
Yeah, we had this thing called PUP, which is Performance Under Pressure Camp that Red Bull had in right before the Olympics in 2016, I think. And they had Wim Hof for like 3 or 4 days, couple days. He kind of taught us the breathing and how most athletes, breathe through the mouth, not through the nose, and just like literally learning how to control high pressure situations through your breathing, which I learned, you know, right away with him. He's brilliant. So I take his approach into a lot of competitions of just breathing the right way. So he's incredible.
What does breathing the right way mean, though?
Well, from him, it's breathing through your nose, um, which is more oxygen into your lungs, which lets you hold in more oxygen, which helps with the breathing, which makes your heart rate more constant, more even. I mean, I'm butchering it. I'll let him do that, but uh, for me, it was just breathing the correct way.
Interesting.
For him, it's
Breathing
through your nose.
only through your nose.
Yeah,
Huh.
I don't breathe. I mean, I don't do it all the time, but when I focus on it, then yeah, like you'll tape your mouth shut, and then it's yeah,
I've seen some people with the mouth tape too. Interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. All right, then. I definitely want to hear a little bit about your future plans as well. You already, briefly touched upon a future runways that we're going to see you on. What else can we see you doing in the future?
It's a surprise. No, there's a couple
Hopefully.
things I'm working on to help grow the sport. I can't say too much yet, but things that I would love to do to grow the sport bigger, which will come out soon. And maybe see me on the big screen. Who knows?
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think I got, I would like to keep fencing. I'd love to see if I can still do this till LA 2028. I love the sport and it's taught me so much. So I'm trying to keep myself invested, but also want to help grow the sport as much as I can while I'm still in it as well.
Yeah, your motto is create a legacy, not a moment, right? So
You got it.
you're really trying to go the long road, really.
Exactly. That's been my purpose. So I'm gonna keep continuing to get there.
What does it mean to you though? It's your purpose. That's a big thing to say.
I mean, I think it's just it's what I was on this planet to do, is to win, but also to inspire and change the sport forever. I think that's what I was given to do. So that's my duty.
That really does sound great. Maybe one last thing, because you already mentioned that you want to stay in the game until 2028. I heard you say that it's really hard in fencing, especially to stay consistent for a long time. How so, and how are you going to make that happen?
Well, I think now that I've had more experience, it definitely helps. But we have so many competitions that are around the world, and it's not like most sports where we kind of have seasons. We're like a full year, so like 10 months. So it's super tough on your body, on traveling, going to Asia a lot, going to Europe a lot. So I think just continuing to keep my plan, my routine, which will help, but also just kind of going with the flow as much as I can.
All right then, Miles, crazy Miles, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. All
Thank
the
you.
best for the future. Can't wait to see you on
Thank you.
runways or the big screens
It was a
or
pleasure. Thank you so
winning the
much.
next competition. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Miles. This was fun. And let's look back to the beginning of the interview. Driven, crazy, and determined are the three words that he chose to describe himself. And I mean, it was only a brief chat, but it definitely shows that he knows himself pretty well. Now, I'll be back on Thursday with York to see what lessons we can learn from my conversation with Miles and how we can implement them in our own lives. Also, please get in touch with us. You can either leave a review or a comment on whatever platform you're watching or listening, or drop us an email on mindsetwin@redbull.com. And of course, we would love if you checked out our Mindset Win YouTube channel and watched the full episode again. Thanks so much for listening, and see you on Thursday.